Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the Global Reality Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for another late night Moonbat edition of the program. So here we are. Glad you could join us here tonight. And we're going to be getting into, there's not a lot of news today, so I'm just going to be going through the few stories that I have. I'm going to be answering some questions that I had, and then I'm going to be getting into reading William Bramley's Gods of Eden again tonight. We last night I actually had found some a coast to coast interview that William Bramley had done a few years ago and played it on the stream, and it was actually a pretty good interview. So I'll be playing that again tonight as well after the broadcast. So there you go. There is that, and yeah, there's you can always send us emails. Actually, I've got now that I remembered that, I need to bring that up real quick. I actually closed out of the email tab earlier. So if you have emails, if you have things you want to send into the show, if you have things you want me to talk about, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. You can send over your emails there to that address tonight, and I'll do my best to address those emails and answer questions on the show for you. So definitely send those over there. And yeah, there's not really a lot of stuff covered. I've got a few things I'm going to cover and some questions and stuff, but I have enjoyed the emails coming in, and especially as I talked about last night, getting one from Ralph Epperson was pretty cool. I heard he was on some show on Oracle or something tonight and only got 30 minutes, but I mean, you know, what do you expect? You got commercials. Fuck, you get 40 minutes a show if you do 2 hours. So, yeah, I'm going to be getting a hold of him and getting him on the program, and hopefully be able to do, you know, maybe a series of shows or something. We'll see. We will see what happens. Yeah, glad you could be here with us tonight. I was getting, I was attempting to get pumped up with some Rush before that. I saw somebody in the chat room, I guess, wasn't happy about that. I get emails all the time, people saying, "Oh, I wish you'd quit playing Rush." Well, look, first off, let me say this: if you don't like what I play in my goddamn network, start your own. You know, play your own fucking shitty music. But shut the fuck up and let me play mine. So quit sending me fucking emails saying you don't want me playing this, that, or the other. It's my fucking network. Don't tune in. Play what I want to play. I thought you knew. Damn, you know, I love that shit. It's like walking in somebody's house and going, "God damn it, I hate grape soda," and throwing grape soda on their carpet. You know what I mean? I see people do that all the time. It's funny to me. Anyway, let's get into let's get into what we need to get into tonight. Again, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. Love to hear from you if you have emails. If you have anything you'd like me to hear me talk about here tonight, you can join the Moonbat eatness going on in the chat room there. And you can join the chatters and talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about in there as well tonight. Let's see if I had any leftover emails from last night. I don't think I did. I think I got everything. Let's see, but sometimes stuff comes in afterwards. Let's see here. Oh yeah, well I got a letter here from Psy Girl. She says that I should definitely interview Ralph Epperson, blah blah blah. Yeah, well I absolutely will. So Thanks for suggesting that. So it seems that the consensus is I should get a hold of Epperson and get him on the program. Seems everybody has said that. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty 90% positive based on a lot of the stuff I've looked at. He's not the guy that did Secret History of America's Beginnings and all that, is he? Those documentary films. Is that him? Because if that's him, I've seen all those, and I've really wanted to get that guy on before because one of the things in those films that I've noticed is that there is a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of truth in those movies. It's classic truther type stuff. I'm wondering. I mean, can anybody verify for that? Let me go to the chat room here real quick. Can anybody verify for me if those those Secret History of America's Beginnings and all that films, are those his films? Are like really long films? And there's another one. There's a whole series of them. I think there was one that was like something about the secret architecture of Washington D.C. and all that. Is that him? Yes, they're listed on his website. Okay. All right, so he's involved in that. Okay, well, I already do have a pretty solid opinion on that. And that is like I said, there's a lot of good info and there's a lot of very, very right on. Yeah, the new Atlantis. There you go. Yeah, that's him. Okay. All right. Well, cool. I mean, I've watched all those films ever since they've been coming out. I always get them and watch them, and so it definitely is definitely something I wanted to talk about. I have to say this though. Wait a minute. Ralph Epperson is in the John Birch Society. Oh man, really? Well, that seals the deal for me then. I mean, my goodness, what else do you need to know? That's why all his stuff centers around pinning everything down on Freemasons. I knew it. I knew that. I fucking knew that, but I was going to take a chance and see. Oh, he was. He was. Okay. Not currently, but he was. Okay. I got you. Well, still. But, what I should probably do is go back and watch those movies all over again, even though that's probably like fucking, 30 hours out of my life to do that and maybe take notes, because there were just a lot of things in there. I don't know, man. There's one of the last ones I watched. I can't remember whatever the newest one is. I think there's a newest one that they have out that I watched, and there was a lot of disinfo in that one. There was a lot of disinfo in there because a lot of times they give you some good info, but then again, there's stuff, and he has Monteith in there. I mean, he's had, I don't know, man. There's a lot of CMP types that are in those movies. Dr. Stan Monteith is in there. Fucking Bill Schnoblin's in there. All those. Somebody in the chat room last night was saying something about some particular person that we were either mentioned last night or sometime on one of the shows this week. Something about the Prophecy Club. Who was in the chat room the other night asking about the Prophecy Club? Because you went out of the chat before I saw that. And I do know about the Prophecy Club. They're totally connected to the Council for National Policy, like 100%. And Schnoblin was involved in that group. And yeah, I remember now. I remember now about that. A few years ago, Mike Chambers had on that guy on his show, the guy who contacted me. And I remember when I was listening to the show, Ralph Epperson, when Mike Chambers had him on, I can remember listening to his show and thinking, yeah, it just really sounded like that classic Christian based deflection technique. Don't look over here at the priest class. Don't look over here at the Vatican. Don't look over here at the Jesuit order. For God's sakes, don't even go that farther back than that and go back to the Los Alumbrados Society or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe it's a good opportunity for me to play nice, get him on the show, and rake him over the coals. I mean, maybe I could do that. But I just got to say that based on the people I've seen in those films, And like I said, there is a lot of good info. Some of the info in them is very good, but and it's great if you're somebody who's informed and you have discernment and you have the ability and the knowledge to be able to tell, what is good info and what is bad info from these things. Then it's great. But what worries me is that you get, another section of the population that sees those films and, doesn't know anything about the information. So they take the good information and the bad information and believe both of them. You understand? That's very dangerous. And the fact of the matter is, that's a very large part of the operation, is to do just exactly that. I mean, I think we've conclusively shown that now over the course of the past several years in stuff that we've exposed with the CMP and the rest of this stuff. I mean, there's just no question. Oh, yeah. Claims he's a 99. Yeah. Nice try there, Billy boy. Only 32 degrees. Well, the 33rd degree is an honorary degree. That doesn't really count anyway. You don't have to go through all of the you don't have to go through all the initiation degrees to get the 33rd degree. It's honorary, but those are the only ones that are obtainable in this plane. You can't get into the other. Yeah, it goes up to 360 degrees of Freemasonry. There are actually 360 total degrees, but only the 32 are obtainable on Earth, or 33 are obtainable on Earth. That's it. So in order for that to be true about Bill Schnoebelen, he would had to have died, been dead long enough to make it all the way up to the 99th degree. I imagine he probably would have had some onset decomposition by that time of his material physical plane body, and then somehow managed to recombobulate himself back into his decaying body to come back and be in films and say, I'm a 99th degree vampire mason. Oh. I mean, if it smells like shit, it probably is. You know what I mean? No need to taste it. No need to kind of look at it and see if it's spongy or not. No. If it smells like shit, it most likely is. Oh man. So yeah, there you go. That just about says all I need to say about that. There was a couple of things I wanted to address. Oh, I remember. Number one, Jimbo in the chat room. Jimbo's been tuning in, listening for the past couple of years. And so big shout out to Jimbo there. Jimbo was asking in the chat room earlier if I could detail a little bit more of what I was talking about the other night on Lee Rogers' program concerning the ancient mysterious rock wall in Rockwall, Texas. And he wanted to know if I could sort of iterate a little bit more on the locals and how the locals feel about it, and how the locals are, how the locals feel about new excavations and all this. Well, I'll tell you, it's, as you would imagine, from what I understand, I don't know. I can't tell you one. I've never talked one-on-one with a lot of the locals. I've talked one-on-one with John Lindsay and some of the other people that have been involved in digs and other archaeologists who are in the know. Dave Campbell, I've talked to him. But the one thing is, really, it's only because Rockwall has grown in size. And it's funny that right as soon as they got their dig shut down in 1999, you started to see the property values all around that area where the dig was skyrocket. And I think that was 100% by design. I don't think that was any sort of accident. And see, Rockwall used to be kind of a small, town where everybody knew everybody. And now they've moved in so many new people out of there that the majority of people in Rockwall, Texas have no idea the story of the name of the town. They have no idea what the town sits on. They don't have any idea of it. Most people don't even know, that they say that the wall's even there, or that they even say that it's man-made or anything else, or not man-made or anything else, natural. Most people just don't know. And I am going to do that. I'm going to walk around. I'm going to go there and walk around and just, and ask people, if they know about it and whatnot. And here's the thing. From what I understand, Jimbo, there's some old guard type old families who live in Rockwall, whose families still live in Rockwall and whatnot, that have artifacts, that have pieces of the wall, all sorts of things in their homes that they keep for whatever reason. And they don't talk about it, and they don't tell people about it, and they don't show them to people and things of that nature. But according to people in the know that have been connected to the digs and connected to a lot of the people in the Rockwall Historical Society, there are people there that, for them to just tell everybody it's a natural formation, seem to be quite interested in artifacts and rocks and everything else, and they also seem quite interested in keeping the knowledge of any of that stuff to themselves. I mean, that's what makes this whole scenario of this so classic for a cover-up. There's no question in my mind at all, should not be any question in your mind at all, that this is a massive cover-up. The evidence is there in spades that they're covering this up, that they do not want people to know what's there. I mean, my God. The man that did the paleomagnetic survey on it was so shit scared, he won't talk about it until after he's dead. So, there's apparently, from what I understand, is it's local politics stuff where you've got one end of the locals that say, it's a natural formation. We've determined it's a natural formation. Let it rot, let it die, let it be covered up. We don't care. We're not going to talk about it. End of story. And then, from what I understand, the other even smaller portion of the locals that did have an interest in it, basically, essentially, were for lack of a better way to put it, were basically told to shut the fuck up. They were basically, shut down, and so I think there are a lot of people there who are interested in it, and I think that if we raise the interest on this, and we were able to get a new dig, because the people who had contacted me before that wanted to put some money up to have this done, I told them that the best thing to do would be to find a piece of property out there and buy it, and then we could start the dig from there. And I still have their contact information. They told me that when I find a piece of property to let them know. So maybe we can do that. I mean, maybe if anybody wants to help out there, any of my friends or people I know here locally, I mean, if we can find a way to maybe determine where a piece of this thing would be, and then maybe try to get a piece of property around there, I mean, I would definitely at least try to do it, at least see how much it would cost. But I think if that was to happen, I think if we were to get some balls rolling on this, that there would be, there would be some interest in it. But at the same time, I would almost want to do it. I would almost want to do it as something that would almost be, I don't know. I don't think we should, if we were going to do something like this. For instance, I'll talk about it now. I'll talk about wanting to do a new dig and all this stuff. But I don't know if I'll get up here and give a lot of details once we do. Just because it just seems that there's this massive thing going on where they want people covered up. Again, Congressman Ralph Hall there, with his offices built right on top of one of the ancient domed rock rooms underground. This guy's a big Freemason right winger, and he gets caught in the middle of the night stealing a 2.5 stone block out of the old courthouse, which is built on the main temple room. They found, according to the past records and writings and whatnot, they found a massive underground temple room, the biggest room of the complex, and that's where the courthouse is located. Interestingly enough, I mean, we're talking about, this is the flatland prairie out here, folks. That's what they call it, the Blackland Prairie. It's the flatlands out here. There are mountains, there are hills. It's flat as shit. But when you come out of Rowlett, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas, which is right next to Rockwall, when you come out of Rowlett, Texas, onto the Highway 66 bridge, you come right down into the epicenter, the major zone of the wall, and that drop when you come down is a 578 foot elevation change. It always struck me as odd when I was a kid too, that, man, this is a massive hill going all the way down and all the way up. And when you get down into old downtown Rockwall, it's a massive hill all the way up you have to go to. I mean, you can just tell when you're there that the old, especially the main part where you notice it at the most. You don't really notice it anywhere else in all of Rockwall that I've seen, but the main place you notice it is downtown, the old downtown area. You can for sure tell when you go there, especially after you go some other places around North Texas here, that whatever is there, yeah, there's something underground. That's what's mind blowing about him. You can tell. I mean, you can just tell, man. You're like, my God, and it just happens to be that's where they built the old courthouse. It used to be the jail. It's this old building. They have, and what's interesting about it is they have there's a nuclear fallout shelter underneath this thing, and I always wondered and speculated if, well, you can tell it's built on top of something. You can tell it goes underground. I have a sneaking suspicion. I bet they built that fallout shelter into the temple room. I bet they built it down underground into the actual rock-lined room and then built it out from there where it's like double covered. I guarantee you it is. It's probably the safest motherfucking place to be if something was going to go down. Because not only are you in a bomb shelter, but you're also in whatever that rock-lined room that the structure itself is built on. And it goes down 50 feet. That's unbelievable. And they also have, there's actually a picture. I'd have to dig it up. It's on old fucking MySpace account I don't use anymore. I need to get that picture up. But there's a picture of me and Delphi standing in front of the old, the recreation of it. They have a recreation of it in front of the courthouse, a recreation of the wall. What they did was, it's fucked up, man. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. They took like rocks, right, that came from the wall, and they threw concrete between them, stacked them up and threw concrete between them, let them stick, and there's concrete thrown all over these ancient rocks that came out of the rock wall, and you can just see fucking crystals sticking out of the rocks. Just sticking out of them, like quartz crystal, big shards of them, just sticking out everywhere. And they took those rocks, the goddamn city took those rocks from the dig and threw fucking concrete on them. So there's parts where you could see crystals poking through, and they're just slathered with concrete. And I was just wondering, my goodness, to go up there with a fucking chisel and just plink, get a chunk of that stuff off of there, take it to have it analyzed. I'm not suggesting anybody do that. I'm not saying I'm going to either. All I'm telling you is, I mean, we can't get to any of the rocks because they're buried 50 feet down, but there's a big stack of them sitting right in front of the Rockwall Courthouse right now. But you got a hammer, just walk by there, all like, pink. Oh, let's go. Let's take this shit and have it analyzed. So there you go. So the answer to the question about the locals and stuff, a lot of the locals don't know, and oh, wow. Who posted that? Is that in Rockwall? Because that looks remarkably similar. That looks remarkably close to where I've located some of the wall at. Because I've looked at that land a million times through Google Earth. That looks remarkably close. Is that where that Costax is? Is that where you pulled that from? Is that Rockwall? It sure does look like it. Wow. But yeah, I mean, so I guess I think you have, because you have so many rich people that live there, and especially right in that hot zone, congressmen, senators, people who work in industry. There's tons of people. It's the richest county in Texas. I can bet that the bureaucracy is keeping it there. But you know what? Ralph Hall is an old motherfucker. And from what I understand, Ralph Hall is the main thing in that town that's keeping anything from being done. And he's like 84. I mean, if he croaks anytime soon, it might be, I don't know. It might be easier action after he kicks the bucket, but I don't know. Anyway, there you go. I hope that helps. globalrealityshow@gmail.com tonight if you want to send any emails over for me to talk about. Let's get into the news. This is an interesting article here, and I wonder, it really, with what we've been talking about with, because I started theorizing that the whole idea of how they've been fear mongering us with, there was going to be a massive earthquake in the United States, probably, and everybody for years and years and years just thinks if a massive earthquake is going to happen, it's going to happen in California, because that's what they've told us for years, right? In the media and everywhere else. But yet we're never, ever really told anything about the New Madrid fault line or any of these. Even the fact that, you had the Mississippi River run backwards for 2 weeks the last time the New Madrid thing happened. And so I started talking about that. And lo and behold, within just a two or 3 week period after initially talking about that, we started to see reports come out about National Level Exercise 2011, where they would be conducting these drills. Now, listen to this. Now, if this doesn't qualify as cognitive dissonance to you, I don't know what does. Listen to this. This is out of Mother Jones. It seems now that people have become interested in the New Madrid, and thanks in part to our show and you, the listeners out there, and everybody who's been talking about this. Like I said, when I went up to Arkansas over the weekend, talked to several people up there who did know about the New Madrid thing. Well, it seems now that people have actually been finding out about this. Now they're running these counter intel ops to try and deflect away from it. I mean, you knew they had to, right? So this article right here out of Mother Jones, FEMA freaking out over a fake quake. Again, just like I always say, folks, if they tell you not to be worried, you need to be worried. If they tell you to be worried and freak out, you need to be calm and not panic. Just do the opposite. I swear to God, man, if you just always react in the opposite way that the intelligentsia tells you to, and you will be all right. So now they're running this op to try and, I guess, get people to think, oh, no, nothing's going to happen on New Madrid. Don't worry. Because if there's a mass exodus out of that area because of the knowledge of this spreading out, then, that's going to be bad for their operation. The reason the New Madrid operation is perfect, and especially perfect for them to use force multiplication technology where they know ahead of time the earthquake is going to happen, then they use force multiplication technology and make it worse. I mean, you're talking about, what, 2 million or 27? I don't remember how many. They said 2.7 million people displaced. I mean, the death toll would just be huge, way huger than what they would have in California. But now people are waking up to it. So let's listen to this Shillington stuff right here. Following last week's nuclear near meltdown in Japan, the focus in Washington has quickly shifted to the federal government's own emergency response policies. Given the Federal Emergency Management Agency's botched response to Hurricane Katrina, concerns remain about the nation's readiness in the event of a catastrophic natural disaster. As the National Journal's Mark Ambinder put it, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake hit the Midwest. Would the United States be better prepared than Japan? Such a disaster is a serious possibility, at least in the eyes of FEMA. 3 years ago, the agency stated that a massive quake in the New Madrid seismic zone, located in the Mississippi Valley near Memphis, is likely to constitute the highest economic losses due to a natural disaster in the United States. The hazard posed by the New Madrid seismic zone is greater, in other words, than a Category 5 hurricane hitting New Orleans or a flare-up on California's San Andreas Fault. And FEMA has devoted significant resources to preparing for the next big one in the Mississippi Valley, as have other agencies based on its recommendations. There's just one problem. According to Northwestern University seismologist Seth Stein, the federal government is basing its policies and spending tens of millions of dollars on outdated zombie science. Okay, well, let's see the proof. Stein argues that the fault, which triggered 3 massive earthquakes known as the Great Shakes over a 3-month period in 1811 and 1812, has shut off. Oh, it shut off, eh? Really? So all the earthquakes that they've had in Arkansas, what they have, 201 week, a month or two ago? So you're telling me all these earthquakes going on that don't have anything to do with this? Okay, well, let's just say that for a moment that's true. Then that would lead us to believe that either this fracking or some other thing there is going on. Because, hey, if it's not New Madrid, right? But he doesn't seem to address that. He doesn't address that at all. There's no mention of the earthquake swarms, literal earthquake swarms they've had in Arkansas around that zone over the past month. It's unbelievable. This is such a pathetic attempt at cognitive dissonance and counterintelligence ops. It's sad to see, and they fail miserably. Focusing on where the last one was will always send you in the wrong place. Well, if you don't know where how large the New Madrid seismic zone is, and don't know the implications of force multiplication technology, sure, you're going to buy into that. In Stein's estimation, it could take 10,000 years for the New Madrid fault to store up enough energy for a sequel. If he's right, FEMA's top threat is an imaginary earthquake. Well, yeah. See, this is so cute, isn't it? Because, this gives him the ability to come back later and say, oh, my God, well, even with all of our technology, we couldn't have told that this was going to happen. I mean, my goodness, science says that, it would take 10,000 years for this to happen. And, you just can't tell what Mother Nature's going to do. Science just has no way of knowing what Mother Nature's going to do. It was an act of God. We didn't tell people to move out of that area, even though we knew there was a sign of an earthquake. Oh, we didn't know in advance. No, not at all. Man, this is such bullshit. They're doing this so later on they can have more of it. I mean, this is classic for any operation they run. So then they'll be able to blame it on global warming or HARP or Nibiru or whatever the scapegoat of choice that week is, whatever the popular scapegoat is. HARP ate my dinner. Tell Hillary I'm going to eat some vagina tonight. Fuck Arkansas. I hate that place. Wish I was never born there. So, yeah, nice piece of Shilly Shillington there. I think that deserves a nice big... Yeah, absolutely. What else do we have here? Oh, this is good. Remember back when we exposed how the Christmas Day underwear bomber sitting right in front of him, like 6 rows up from him, was the lady who at the campaign stop for Obama back in 2008 had the Islamic headdress on, and they made a big deal about making her move and not allowing her to sit behind Obama. Made a big deal about that in the press. And then it just so happens that on the flight to Detroit from Amsterdam, that same woman just happens to be sitting on the plane just a few rows up from the bomber. We're supposed to believe that's all a coincidence. Well, listen to this. For Al-Qaeda, Detroit was just the cheapest flight. They're saying, oh, that was just the cheapest flight, so that's what Al-Qaeda used. Right. No mention of this woman that was at the campaign stop with Obama being on the plane with him, nothing else. Oh, there was nothing to that decision. Bullshit. That was where this operation was staked out of. When it admitted Al-Qaeda operative planned his itinerary for a Christmas 2009 airline bombing, he considered launching the strike in the skies above Houston or Chicago. The Associated Press has learned, but tickets were too expensive, so he refocused the mission on a cheaper destination, Detroit. Yeah. Yeah, the sons of guys who do gun op deals with Don and Khashoggi and all the rest of those clowns. Yeah, he can't afford that. I mean, my God, it was such an op. Don't know if you guys heard about this. UFOs over Chernobyl. Prior to Chernobyl happening, apparently there's been confirmed reports of UFOs hovering and thousands of flashing lights over the epicenter of the earthquake as it happened. I find that highly interesting now. Herbal Mistress in the chat room was asking me about this yellow rain report that came out. There was a news report that came out in the Japan Daily, I believe. Let me look. I had it earlier. Where did it go? Let's see here. I'll just have to bring it back up. Yeah, I saw the Lee had posted the article from the Intel Hub on his thing, but there's actually is a source article from the Japan Times. Let me find that. Cause of yellow rain found to be pollen. So they had yellow rain Wednesday, and yellow rain is the same phenomenon that happened over Chernobyl after it occurred. But I'll tell you this: where I've seen it more happening more is concerning chemtrails and eugenics, and using it in they were using it in Vietnam and whatnot. It's a bioweapon. And the more that I look at this, and look, I'm not going to speculate on all the ins and outs of this. If you want to speculate, then you think Israel was behind the fucking earthquake or whatever. I'm not saying I believe that. Especially when the main person I've heard putting out that garbage is fucking Benjamin Fulford. Look, let me tell you something. When you send me a piece of information and you think that you're smart and you think that I'm going to go to air with a piece of garbage that you sent me that comes from either Leo Zagami or, Benjamin Fulford. Let me tell you, I do double check everything before I put it out. So just please save yourself some time and me some time, and don't send me shit like that from those ass clowns anymore. But look, that's beside the point. We do know that biological warfare that has been conducted over human populations has produced this yellow rain. What's interesting about this is that a lot of the things that are found in this yellow rain come from molds and funguses and things like that have been found in bioweapons and chemtrails and the rest of it. So I think that, I don't have all the ins and outs of this, but I think there was something more to this this earthquake tsunami thing. I think that this was an act of war. I think this was this was the Syria, the Libya thing, and this being launched simultaneously. I think this was an act of war. I think they are preemptively launching a new war for the first time ever without actually announcing that they're having a war and creating a war, and doing it by subterfuge and doing it without having to admit it. That way, the public doesn't know that we're actually entering into a new war. When indeed we are. And I believe that's what's going on. The more I look at this, I think that this was a hit. I mean, with the yellow rain and stuff, I don't think that's because they're real quick to try and deflect away from it and say, oh, it was just pollen, So I got to say, everything points in the direction, especially when you had Japan being the provider, or was talked about being the provider of these nuclear fuel rods to Iran. I think that where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think that we could very well be seeing the launching of a new war. There it is. Somebody found the picture and put it up on online of us in front of the wall. Yeah, there it is. Recreation there of the rock wall. But yeah, I really do. I really think that they are launching a new war, and for the first time, not announcing that to the general public. Well, I mean, Chernobyl was the same thing. Chernobyl was you had, think about it. I mean, that happened right before the fall of the Soviet Union. They're running massive depopulation events there. I mean, eugenics and depopulation is everything these people do, and everything's an op. So, but again, in all of these chemtrail operations, they're using radiological weapons. I mean, there's fucking barium and radium and all kinds of other stuff in there. So, these kind of things where you can blame it on a nuclear reactor are great opportunities for them to wipe out and use some of these depopulation agendas, and then have a scapegoat and have something. They love scapegoats. They love to have one thing they put out to blame, and then run 20 other operations to kill 10 times as many people, so that there's a public face to it and a public explanation. I mean, everything they do does that. Everything. That's one of their classic modus operandi. All of you should know this by now. I don't know why I'm repeating it here, but it's just undeniable. Everything they do has a front operation to it. Whether they create it or whether they come in on the back end and then take advantage of that situation, they do a little bit of both. But blaming something on a nuclear reactor, using the nuclear reactor as your patsy, as your Oswald, as your scapegoat, is a great opportunity to spray aerosol dispersants and spray radiologicals and biologicals on the population. I mean, before the New World Order comes in, you're going to see a lot of death. I thought you knew that. 27,000 dead is a drop in the bucket for what we're going to see the rest of this year, I have a feeling. What, another earthquake in Myanmar? My goodness. Just out of control. Indiana prosecutor told Wisconsin governor to stage false flag operation. That's a hell of a title for an article, isn't it? An Indiana prosecutor and Republican activist has resigned after emails show he suggested Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker stage a fake attack on himself to discredit unions protesting his budget bill repair. Well, my goodness, we hear that term thrown around so much in conspiracy lore. False flag this and false flag that, but my God, that scenario described right there. Well, good Lord. I don't think you can get any more false flag than that. The Republican governor signed a bill on March 11th that eliminates most union rights from public employees. In an email from February 19th, Indiana Deputy Prosecutor Carlos F. Lamb told Walker the situation presented a good opportunity for what is called a false flag operation. What I find interesting about that is that these are two right-wingers in an email talking between each other, and they're using the term false flag. I mean, anybody else but me think that's kind of ironic? These CMP-connected right-wingers sending emails back and forth to each other using the term false flag, which is, used ad nauseum in the conspiracy and right-wing research community. That alone, to me, is more interesting than the fact that they were thinking about, doing this. That, to me, is what I've zeroed in on this article more than anything else. I mean, yeah, we know they do this shit all the time. We know that's a part of their plan. Let me drop that. Let me drop that in the chat room for you, because to me, that's the most telling thing about that article. It really is. I mean, yeah, these right wingers do that, and yeah, these guys are connected to the CMP. I mean, these guys are connected to the Koch brothers and all that stuff. But the fact that in an email privately between them, they actually used the term false flag operation. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, folks, this could very well be a case of them fucking up. Because if that's something that's been going around in talking points and going around between emails and everything else between these people, it very well could be that that's the reason why we've seen Jones push that so much into the nomenclature. Because that's how these people talk to each other when they talk about pulling off operations. Boy, that's pretty big, man. That's kind of a big, I think somebody fucked up. And that may have gone unnoticed. I wonder if Lee caught that. I wonder if Lee caught that article or not. If you didn't, buddy, check it out. You're listening later on tomorrow or something, Lee. That's very interesting. All right. See what else we got here. All the hits just keep on coming. FBI dedicates $1 billion to massive biometric identification program. Boy, the news is just so wonderful, isn't it? Oh, I love it. Oh, it's great. Puts a smile on my face. Makes me feel warm and cozy. Man, I love it. Oh, I mean, if you weren't as positive and had a good of an outlook, and weren't as informed as some of us are, and some of you and I are, you might be a little scared of some of this stuff sometimes. This might set up a situation where somebody might be able to use this information to scare the shit out of you and take a lot of your money. I mean, they run this up every other year. You ever notice that? You won't hear anything about the new, the massive, national ID cards coming to a theater near you. Shit yourself with fear and wipe with your old ID because you won't need it. New national ID card coming soon. Starring Tom Hanks. I mean, it's every other year, we get this fear mongering of the national ID card. When again, if you've lived in my state, if you lived in Texas, you've had a license long enough to remember when they had the little plastic. You guys remember if you're from Texas or lived in Texas or live in Texas now, they used to have the little plastic laminate ones that had like your picture on it, little info stuff, and they were laminated. You remember that they changed those one year to the ones that were, had the swipe card thing on. They look like that was the national ID. Those came in I think 94, 93 or 94 was when those came in. Well, you've had the national ID card in the state of Texas since 94. Same thing, but every other year they run this, scaremongering op on national ID cards to get everybody worked up in a tuss about it. And look, I mean, the real thing that should come down to this is whether or not you and I decide that we're going to take this. Because if everybody just decides they're not going to take it, they're not going to do it. There's not anything they're going to be able to do, guys. If everybody just up and says, no, we don't want the national ID card, then they're not going to put us all in jail. We'd shut them down. So don't buy into the fear mongering. I feel it's important to talk about this, but I feel it's important also to not buy into the chill factor. They're trying to go to reaction out of you and I. They are trying to get us to react so they don't have to make the first move. All they have to do is tell us that they're going to do something. All they have to do is use one of their mouthpieces like Alex Jones or anybody else to tell us that, oh my God, the government's about to do this. Oh my God. And they very well may be. But you know what? Who says we have to participate? Just because they're going to try to do this or they're going to try and make it a law, are we forgetting that we can just stand up and say no? And if all of us do that, there's not going to be a goddamn thing they can do. So just, don't let them. Again, the biggest thing they want is they want us to react. They want to use their mouthpieces like Jones and others to get us scared. We react. And based on our reactions, they act. They make the first blow. And then by then, we're too down to play catch up. The Federal Bureau of Investigation announced recently that it is dedicating up to $1 billion for a Lockheed Martin developed system that will enable on-the-fly analysis of detailed identification information that can be instantaneously shared with law enforcement all around the world. It's called the Next Generation Identification System, and if you're a fan of television dramas like the CBS drama NCIS, it may sound pretty familiar. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's go ahead and get them all scared up with NCIS. Show them what's coming with biometrics. We can even make them believe it's here right now. You know that shit they show on those goddamn shows? They don't have any of that. They got people thinking my goodness, they got people thinking that like date rapists have like, your date rapist is going to have the crime lab out. Yes. They're going to be able to tell how many times a day you jack off and what hands you use. Just by the spray of semen on the wall. That's all they need. They're NCIS. I mean, it's such a joke. Chill factor, fear factor. That's what they do there. It's just programming. It is, they live. I mean, they're just beaming out the signal through the TV while we're sitting there watching it. They have those little beams up on the traffic lights. And they live. They're just beaming out the signal. Sleep, 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 sleep. That's what the TV does. And we just go, show's on. Theta waves, man. Takes you down to theta waves. Once they take your brain waves down to theta waves, they got you. Video games do that. So this is just a joke. Fear-mongering, more of this. Yeah. Unbelievable stuff. I'm sick to death of news. Fuck this news. We've done 45 minutes of news tonight. That's enough. So we're going to take a break, come back, and after we get back from the break, we're going to continue reading from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden for you here tonight. So definitely stick around for that. globalrealityshow@gmail.com if you want to get in another question or a comment before we get into reading tonight. Love to hear from you there. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. We are going to be getting back into our reading tonight from William Bramley's book, The Gods of Eden. I want to thank everybody out there. This is, this is the whole reason why I ever started reading books on the air in the first place. We hadn't done one of these in a while, and Nick had suggested that I read this. So, again, thanks to him for suggesting that, but also thanks to everybody out there for just for the response, and with good reason. I mean, this is this reading of this has been to me, with all the other information that we have, we can fill in the blanks. But this book by no means gets it right 100% on everything, and it by no means tries to convince you of anything. But I'll tell you this. If this stuff in this book is just considered to be somebody's theory or something else of that nature, I have to tell you, I get the sneaking suspicion this book was allowed to be put out so that people would think that it was a theory or it was bullshit or anything else. Because I tell you what, we have so much other information that just ties this all together and really, really answers some of the unanswered questions I think a lot of us have had. And then that's been the biggest thing that I have taken away from this so far, and that I know you, the listeners out there, have taken away from it so far from what you've told me, from your emails and everything else. So that's awesome. I hope that we can continue to find more of these types of things to read on the air. It does make it a lot more enjoyable for me, because some days, it's just some days there's not a lot of news, or some days the news sucks, and I love reading stuff like this where we all gain something from it. I gained something from it from reading it and reading it with you, and you gain something from it. It's just a totally different experience. I mean, we can all read books on our own and everything, but for some reason, like when we do the readings here on the show, there just seems to be a furthering of the information instead of, this sort of thing where it's subjective to each individual person who's reading the information. When you're actually reading it aloud, and you're saying the words and putting the words out into the universe, you really gain something from that. It's an amazing thing. So again, I've been really enjoying reading this, and I want to continue here tonight. Please support our work if you can, folks. We have the chip and banner there for the bills for the month, and we have the donate button that's there. If you want to donate to our cause, to what we're doing here, so that we can grow and get better equipment and better gear and better things to do, bigger and better things to make the films look better, and the music sound better, and everything else that we're trying to do on all the fronts. We have all kinds of irons in the fire here. So that requires money to do these things, and when you're trying to reach people in a way that where they're so programmed by what comes out of the mainstream, it's very difficult to do that. So please donate there at the website if you can, folks, and please support our work. We don't have commercials. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, this person had on Ralph Epperson, and they get 30 minutes or whatever. Well, when we have guests on, like we've had Michael Desarian on the show for 3 hours before, multiple times, 5 or 6 times. Always commercial free, always rolling like that. That's the way we do it here. I'm not going to bring on a guest because I don't bring on guests very often, for the same reason as Lee said on his show the other night. There's just not a lot of people I like anymore. I do need to get Desarian on again, because he's great, and he always says yes, which is amazing. And he doesn't do everybody's show, but he always does my show, and he's the only guy that's ever besides Lee really that ever has said. I mean, even before I even made Volume 1 of The Secret Right, he was like, "Well, it sounds like an important film, so let me know whenever you get done with it, and I'll promote it for you." And he did. He really did. He really did what he was in it. You know what? That's all you can really ask of somebody. Just do what you say you're going to do. Don't you don't have to do anything else. And he also put out 1.5 on his website, whatnot like that, and promoted that. So that's a cool thing. But anyway, please support our work, folks. Please make a donation if you can. We also have the recurring donation box button down there where you can become a member, and then every month it comes out of your bank account automatically. And I tell you what, with the next things I'm planning on doing, because I'm going to get into the Secret Knowledge film next. I'm going to start making the film next after The Secret Right Volume 2 is done, that I wanted to make back in 2007 when I started making freaking films in the first place. Here I am, 4 years later, and I still haven't made the film that I initially wanted to make. Really, the film that got me into this, which was a film on the secret societies, on secret knowledge, and really setting the record straight on what's what on the secret societies, and also kind of tailing into. That's why I want it to be the film after the Secret Volume 2, because also I'm going to have examples in there and kind of show how these CMP types have lied about the truth as far as that goes as well. So all that stuff requires money, so please donate if you can. There you go. Let's get back into our reading tonight. Chapter 10, The Maverick Religions, from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. The Maverick religious movement of India was a major historical event. It attracted millions of adherents and had a strong civilizing effect on Asia. The movement brought about the creation of the so-called 6 systems of salvation. These were the 6 different methods developed at different times for achieving spiritual salvation. Perhaps the most significant of the 6 systems, because of its similarities to Buddhism, was the system known as the Samkhya. The word Samkhya means reason. The precise origin of Samkhya teachings is unknown. Samkhya doctrines are usually attributed to a man known as Kapila. Who Kapila was, where he came from, and exactly when he lived are still topics of speculation. Some people place Kapila around 550 BC during the lifetime of Buddha. Others believe that Kapila may have lived earlier. Some people contend that he did not exist at all because of the extraordinary mythology which arose around him. Whoever Kapila was or was not, some of the teachings attributed to him laid significant groundwork for later Maverick philosophies. For example, the Samkhya system correctly taught that there were 2 basic contrasting entities in the universe: the soul, or the spirit, and matter. It taught further that souls are infinite in number and consist of pure intelligence. Each soul is independent, indivisible, cannot be taken apart, unconditioned, incapable of change, alteration, and immortal. It appears, however, to be bound in matter. Samkhya teaches that each person is such a soul, and that every soul has participated in the creation and or perpetuation of the primary elements which constitute the material universe. Souls then created the senses with which to perceive those elements. People therefore had only themselves, not a god or supreme being to applaud or blame, depending upon one's perspective. For the existence of this universe and for all of the good and bad within it, the soul's liberation from captivity in matter, according to the Samkhya, comes through knowledge. Well, amen. I could have told you that. But that's amazing. Well, isn't that amazing? The soul's liberation from captivity in matter comes through knowledge. And don't you feel more and more liberated from your physical body and less attached to this material meat suit now that you've become informed about how the world really is? I guarantee you, each and every one of you out there has said that. I know you have, because I've talked to you in the chat room. I've talked to you in real life. I feel that way. I know friends and family and people that feel that way. It's amazing. The soul's liberation from captivity in matter comes through knowledge. So if we can gain the knowledge, just like I've been telling you for 4 years here on the show, if we can gain access to this secret knowledge, if we can try to at least figure out what it is, then we can no longer be trapped in our physical bodies. Our souls will be free. They can't trap us here. That is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, exactly what I'm planning on putting in my secret knowledge film that I'm going to make after the Secret Right Volume 2. And that's exactly what the secret societies have known. That's the key. That's the secret. Everybody wants to know what the key and what is it that the secret societies know? What do the Freemasons know? What do the Rosicrucians know? That is it. That is why the symbol for the Rosicrucian order is the rose on top of the cross, the rosy cross. That represents the soul being crucified upon the body. And much in that same way, the Jesus is an allegory for that. We had that great email last night on the show from the lady who was talking about, looking in the Bible and seeing it not as literal, but as, the allegory and the different things. There you go. is there a language? I'm gonna get that. I think I'm gonna get that sand in Sanskrit. I don't know if that's possible. I'd like to get that in Sanskrit, get it tattooed on my arm. The soul's liberation from captivity and matter comes through knowledge. I want that tattooed on my freaking arm. Unbelievable statement. That just seals it for me, really. I can't really even, but it's like I read a statement like that, I don't have anything else to add. My goodness. Author Sir Charles Eliot describes the Samkhya belief this way. Suffering is the result of souls being in bondage to matter. But this bondage does not affect the nature of the soul and in one sense is not real. For when souls acquire discriminating knowledge and see that they are not matter, then the bondage ceases and they attain eternal peace. Boom. There it is right there. You're not your body. I'm not my body. None of us are. And the fuckers know this, man. And that's why they're doing all of this stuff to us. They know it. I mean, these guys talk about being able to create an entire human body, a workable human body in a lab right now. Right fucking now. With current technology. But the problem they have, and all the scientists agree, the problem they have is they cannot figure out how to put an energy source inside of it that will animate the body. They can't replicate the soul. They can't get a soul to incarnate in it. And again, this is one of the key tenets of the secret knowledge. This is one of the key things they plan on us never finding out. And now that the genie's out of the bottle, folks, they're in trouble. That's why they continue to dumb people down as fast as they possibly can, and it's getting faster every day that they're trying to do this. Several questions arise from these Samkhya teachings. First, how could all spiritual beings have helped create the universe? One peek at a physics book tells us that the universe is an enormously complex affair, and even the great scientists like Albert Einstein did not have it all figured out. How is it possible that all of us, quote-unquote, lesser mortals, including drunken winos sleeping off stupors in downtown alleys, could have once had something to do with creating this world? The answer may lie in the fact that matter is built on simple arithmetic and is far less solid than appears. Yeah. Imagine the shock the first time they got inside of an atom and noticed that it was empty. There's nothing inside of it. It's our minds, man. Our minds are what holds all this stuff together, don't you know? The basic block of a physical matter is the atom. An atom is made up of three main components. And again, don't think for a second, not for a second, that it's a coincidence that atom, A-T-O-M, sounds very similar to Adam, A-D-A-M. Not a coincidence there, folks. The Adamic man. An atom is made up of three main components: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons are joined together to form the nucleus of the atom, and electrons orbit at tremendous speeds around the nucleus and thereby form the shell of the atom. The entire arrangement is held together by electromagnetic force. What makes one type of an atom different from another? Nothing more than the number of electrons and protons. For example, hydrogen has only one electron and one proton, and one more electron and proton to an atom of hydrogen, voila, now you have helium. Add 77 more electrons and protons along with a generous helping of neutrons, and you suddenly own gold. Take some away to get cobalt, and then add some more to form zinc. There are 105 basic elements, each existing simply because they have a different number of electrons and protons. As we can see, physical matter is built upon idiotically simple arithmetic, which anyone can do. The reason this arrangement seems to work is that the addition and subtraction of electrons and protons causes a change in the energy created by the atom. Since matter is just condensed energy, a change in the atom's energy through this simple arithmetic will cause a change in the physical substance which the atom produces. The universe only gets complicated after the substances start interacting. Another point is that physical matter is far less solid. At much more ephemeral than it appears, atoms consist almost entirely of empty space. In the nucleus of a hydrogen atom, if the nucleus of a hydrogen atom were to be enlarged to the size of a marble, its single electron would be a quarter of a mile away. The heaviest atom with the most neutrons, protons, and electrons is uranium with 92 electrons. If a uranium atom were enlarged to a half a mile in diameter, the nucleus would be no larger than a baseball. This reveals that atoms are composed almost entirely of empty space, and that matter, even in the heaviest granite, is therefore surprisingly ephemeral. Our physical perceptions do not detect the most illusionary nature of matter because the physical senses are constructed to accept the illusion of solidity caused by extremely rapid motion of atomic particles. Folks, we are scientifically created to see the illusion. Or not to see the illusion. Scientifically, just to accept it. It's unbelievable. If we could see matter for what it truly is, we would see the most solid object as a piece of wispy fluff. As time went on, many incorrect tenets were added to the basic Samkhya teachings, causing the Samkhya system to eventually decay. The other Maverick systems suffered the same fate. In the system of yoga, for example, people reverted back to God idolatry as part of their road to spiritual freedom. In another of the 6 systems, Mimamsa, an attempt was made to maintain the Aryan creeds and to incorporate them into the new Maverick tenets. This did not work because one cannot mix doctrines aimed at enforcing rigid obedience with teachings designed for spiritual freedom and expect to achieve the latter. To be successful, true spiritual knowledge seems to acquire the same precision demanded of any other science. Diluting successful spiritual knowledge with erroneous teachings will destroy that precision. The Indian Maverick movement eventually came to a grinding halt as more and more of the Aryan ideas it sought to replace became incorporated back into the movement. At the same time, many Maverick teachings were taken out of context and absorbed into the Hindu religion. The result has been a hopeless spiritual mismatch in India ever since. Before its ultimate decay, the Indian Maverick movement brought about one of the largest single religions in history, Buddhism. Founded around the year 525 BC by an Indian prince named Gautama Siddhartha, who was later known as the Buddha or the Enlightened One, Buddhism spread rapidly throughout the Far East. Like the Samkhya system, Buddhism in its original form did not worship the Vedic gods. It opposed the caste system and it did not support Brahmanical doctrines. Unlike many modern Buddhists, early Buddhists did not worship Buddha as a god. Instead, they respected him as a thinker who had designed a method by which an individual, through his or her own efforts, might achieve spiritual freedom by way of knowledge and spiritual exercises. Yes, that's true Buddhism. That's what it really is. It is difficult to determine how successful early Buddhists actually were in achieving their aims, although Siddhartha did claim to have personally attained a state of spiritual liberation. Buddhism, like other Maverick systems, underwent a great deal of change, splintering and decay as the centuries progressed. This caused the loss of most of Siddhartha's true teachings. In addition, many teachings and practices not created by Buddha were later added to his religion and mislabeled Buddhism. A good example of this decay is found in the definition of nirvana. The word nirvana originally referred to that state of existence in which the spirit has achieved full awareness of itself the word nirvana originally referred to that state of existence excuse me, hold on one second. Might be time for a break here in a minute. Refer to the state of existence in which the spirit has achieved full awareness of itself as a spiritual being and no longer experiences suffering due to misidentification with the material universe. Nirvana is the state striven for by every Buddhist. Nirvana has also been translated as nothingness or the void, horrible sounding concepts which have come to imply to many people that nirvana is a state of total existence, is a state of total non-existence, or that it involves a loss of contact with the physical universe. In truth, the original Maverick goal was to achieve quite the opposite state. Buddha's true state of nirvana included a stronger sense of existence, increased self-identity, and an ability to more accurately perceive the physical universe. If we compare maverick religions to custodial religions, we discover a number of very distinct differences by which a person may distinguish between them. A chart comparing the key philosophies by which they most strongly differ might look something like this. Custodial religion, source or inspiration of teachings is said to be God, angels, or supernatural force, not a human being. Maverick religion, source of inspiration of teachings is said to be an identifiable human being. Custodial religion, belief in a single supreme being or God, is a principal cornerstone of faith. In early times, worship of many human-like gods. In the maverick religions, belief in a supreme being is usually tolerated, but is a minor or non-existent part of doctrine. Emphasis is placed on the role of the individual spiritual being in relation to the universe. Right. This is where the modern day people, they get in this, it's the Christians all call the people who are into that stuff secular humanists. Oh, those are those secular humanists. They believe it's all, no, they're wrong. Well, no. I mean, so right there you see that the ones that say, call people secular humanists and we're Christians and we got it right. Those are the ones who have that belief because it came from the custodial gods, and the custodial gods, of course, are the extraterrestrials, the Anunnaki. Wrap it up, put a bow on it. All the planets are Satan. I'm serious about that. If you didn't hear my show last night and hear that email that lady sent me, my God, I still think the demigods either have to write a song called that or have an album called that. All the planets are Satan. That's a great title. That's what this person said in the email she wrote me last. All the planets are Satan. That's fucked. Anyway, you get the picture. It goes on to tell you what these different types of beliefs are from the different religions. Human suffering, toil, and enslavement are all part of enslavement or social ills that have broader spiritual plan with no constricted purpose. What? Huh? I think there's a misprint on this page here. It was like printed like same words printed like 18 times. Weird. Some readers will observe that many custodial and maverick elements listed above are mixed together in some religions. A good example of this is Hinduism. Such mixtures are usually concocted when maverick ideas are incorporated into a custodial religion or when custodial doctrines are added to maverick teachings. When either happens, the full benefits of the maverick teachings are lost. This is especially clear in modern Buddhism, where rituals, idolatry, prayers to Buddha have almost entirely supplanted the practical system Buddha had tried to develop. Although Buddhism did not free the human race, it left the hope that freedom would one day come. According to Buddhist legend, Gautama knew that he had not accomplished the goal of creating a religion that would bring about full spiritual liberation for all of mankind. He therefore promised that a second Buddha, or enlightened one, would arrive later in history to complete the task. This promise constitutes the famous friend or the Maitreya prophecy, which has become a very important element of modern Buddhist faith. Because Buddhism did not originally express a belief in a supreme being, the Maitreya legend did not suggest a messenger or a teacher from God. Maitreya would simply be an individual with the knowledge and ability to get the job done. Precisely when in history Maitreya was to arrive is hotly debated in some circles. Many Buddhist sources say that Maitreya would have come 5,000 years after Buddha's death. Others have said half of that. Many Buddhist leaders have come along in history claiming to be Maitreya. None of them were successful in bringing about the world promised by Buddha, so most Buddhists still wait. As time went on, the Maitreya prophecy decayed with the rest of Buddhism. The legend was slowly absorbed into a very destructive doctrine being spread by Brotherhood sources in the Middle East and elsewhere. The doctrine of the end of the world, also known as the dramatic names of the Day of Judgment, the Final Battle, Armageddon, and others, the end of the world teachings have had a catastrophic effect on human society. It is therefore of paramount importance to understand more about where and why those teachings began. So that's the end of chapter 7 there, and chapter 11 is Doom Prophets. And I think we're going to take a break, come back, and when we come back, we'll get into chapter 11, Doom Prophets, for you here tonight. from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. A very interesting read, and hope if you haven't caught all the rest of the shows that we've done here, that you will go back and all right, back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for this late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. We're getting back into another chapter of William Bramley's book, The Gods of Eden, here for you right now. And this is chapter 11 of the book. And coincidentally enough, page 111 as well. Dun, 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 dun. Coincidence? I don't know. Doom prophets. So I bet you can pretty much know where this is going to go. It should be interesting, though. This should give us the origin of, well, the fearmongers, really. And when you know that what we refer to as the priest class are the people that control religions, and they control the patriot movement and truth movement and all the rest of this stuff through the CMP and all these other groups, then you start to understand, oh, wait a minute. All this fear-mongering, doom and gloom, apocalyptic Armageddon stuff, this stuff is not only coming from the priest class, this stuff is also coming from the custodians. The extraterrestrials, the ones who see the life here. Very, very interesting stuff. So let's get into this now. Chapter 11, Doom Prophets. Ask almost anyone, do you believe in a future judgment day of some kind? And chances are that she or he will answer yes. Next to a belief in God, belief in a judgment day may be the most widespread religious concept in the modern world. Even many who are openly atheistic often experience an innate feeling that some sort of grand judgment or realignment lies ahead. Most Judgment Day teachings are found in the writings of religious prophets who claim to have received mystical revelations from God concerning the future of the world. This type of prophetic writing is usually called an apocalypse. The word apocalypse comes from the Greek words apo, off, and kaleptine, to cover. An apocalypse is therefore the taking off of a cover, i.e. a revelation, the revealing. Most apocalypses follow a similar pattern. Mankind will suffer upheaval during a future global cataclysm. The cataclysm will be followed by a day of judgment in which God or a representative of God will decide the fate of every person on earth. Only those people who are obedient to the religion preaching the apocalypse will be granted mercy on the day of judgment. Everyone else will be doomed to death or eternal spiritual damnation. The judgment day will be followed by a utopia on earth to be enjoyed by those who believed and obeyed. Despite promises of a universal Shangri-La, these teachings often terrify people, and they still cause unease today. As we shall discuss shortly, fearsome apocalypses give spiritual truths another false twist, and more obviously, they subdue people into obeying a specific religion or leader. End-of-the-world doctrines also make people afraid to explore competing religious systems, such as those offered by religious mavericks. Judgment Day teachings ultimately amount to extortion. Obey or die. The question is, who implanted apocalyptic beliefs on earth? A supreme being is usually cited, but is a supreme being truly the source? A careful look at history reveals that apocalyptic teachings first arose out of custodial activity from the sources within the corrupted Brotherhood network. End-of-the-world doctrines were disseminated by early Brotherhood missionaries and conquerors hand in hand with monotheism. Bingo. Bingo. It always comes from monotheism. It always comes from the one God system. Always. Exclusively. And we know that that also comes from the custodians, or the quote-unquote extraterrestrials. It is therefore not surprising to learn that final battle doctrines have some roots in famous Brotherhood symbols discovered on ancient Egyptian relics. That symbol was the mythical bird known as the phoenix. The phoenix is a fictional bird which is said to live 500 to 600 years before burning itself to death. Out of the ashes emerges a small worm which grows back into the phoenix. The phoenix repeats this life and death rebirth cycle over and over again, endlessly. The phoenix legend is an allegory or a symbol designed to impart a deeper truth. Precisely what that truth has been lost, and so we find people interpreting the Phoenix legend in a variety of ways. For example, many people see the Phoenix as a symbol of resurrection and spiritual survival after death. A soul is born into a body, the body flowers, and the body undergoes the fiery rigors of life and death, and the soul remains intact to rise and build again. Others see the Phoenix as a symbol of the birth, growth, decay cycle upon which the physical elements of the universe seem to operate, behind which there lies an indestructible spiritual reality. Regrettably, the Phoenix legend, like so many other mystical allegories of the Egyptian Brotherhood, distorted important truths. The legend came to convey the false idea that there exists some kind of unalterable law or plan which mandates that spiritual existence must consist of an arduous phoenix-like process of growing, dying by fire, emerging out of ashes, growing again, dying again, and so on forever. While this process does seem to regulate life on Earth, it is neither natural, inevitable, nor healthy. Many end-of-the-world teachings take the philosophy expressed in the Phoenix myth and apply it to the entire human race. When they do so, they often express the notion that human societies must endure continuous ordeals by fire as a part of God's great plan. Most apocalypses then veer from standard Phoenix allegory by proclaiming that this process will culminate in a great final battle, followed by a utopia. These beliefs encourage people to tolerate and even welcome a world of unremitting physical hardship, conflict, and death, the kind of world the ancient writings say custodians wish their work race to live in. Judgment Day prophecies even spur some people into working to bring about a final battle, because those believers believe that this will bring about the dawn of a utopia. Well, that's a very, very interesting point right there, isn't it? Let's stop right there for a minute. That's an interesting point. Judgment Day prophecies can even spur some people into working to bring about a final battle, because those believers think that it will mean the dawn of utopia. Well, that's exactly to a T what I found very early on, and have not been able to find anything to discourage me from thinking otherwise about the Council for National Policy. Because LaHaye and all these guys, that's what they talk about. I mean, they openly talk about being ready for the final battle and being ready for it to be here. These guys are openly talking about, rebuilding Solomon's temple. LaHaye talks about that. That's what Jones and these CMPs and these militia types, all this stuff. Folks, whether the people on the lower levels of this know it or not, that's what they're being used for. To bring about the final battle so these ass clowns can bring about the fulfillment of their phony prophecy. To make it happen. That's what they're doing all around us every day. All of the scientific dictatorship stuff, folks, is designed for them to be able to scientifically bring about the fruition of their end-of-the-world concepts, which, as we've seen here, we now know were supplanted to the priest class by the custodians, a.k.a. the extraterrestrials. Oh, my goodness. It's just beyond denying it anymore, isn't it? End-of-the-world teachings were widely disseminated in Persia somewhere between 750 BC and 550 BC by a famous Persian named Zoroaster. Zoroaster is cited by historians as one of the earliest prophets to preach the type of monotheism first created by Akhenaten. Zoroaster was an Aryan mystic and priest who also taught a form of Aryanism. Persia at that time was an Aryan nation dominated by an Aryan priest caste. Some Brotherhood branches today state that Zoroaster was an emissary of the ancient Brotherhood. Zoroaster's cosmology theory of the universe was based on the concept of a struggle between good and evil. Zoroaster said that this struggle was to take place over a period of 12,000 years divided into 4 stages. The first stage consisted solely of spiritual existence, during which a time of a chief god designed the physical universe. During the second stage, the material universe was created, followed by the entrance of the chief god's opponent into the new universe for the purpose of creating problems. The third phase consisted of a battle between the chief god and his rivals over the fate of the many souls who came to occupy the universe. In the fourth and final stage, the chief god was to send in a succession of saviors who would finally defeat the opponent and bring salvation to all spiritual beings in the universe. According to Zoroaster's model, the world is in the fourth stage. Zoroaster appears to have been a sincere and honest reformer. He taught some good lessons about the nature of ethics and its importance to spiritual salvation. He stressed that people have free will. In other matters, however, Zoroaster's religion fell well short of ideal. To understand why, we need only look at Zoroaster's god. The god of Zoroaster was named Ahura Mazda. Well, I mean, I don't even have to even read any farther. I mean, I'll read this, but I'm just telling you right now. Ahura Mazda was a goddamn alien. That's just a fact, man. And he came down on a winged disc, too, just like Horus. In fact, Ahura Mazda, the depictions of him, also the depictions that were used by, that used on the, what is it, the Behistun inscription? Same thing. Yeah, Ahura Mazda, my goodness. The god of Zoroaster was named Ahura Mazda, which means Lord or Spirit, or the Lord and Spirit of knowledge. Zoroaster states that he was a 30-year-old priest. Zoroaster states that when he was a 30-year-old priest, Ahura Mazda appeared before him, saying that he, Ahura Mazda, was the one true God. Ahura Mazda then proceeded to impart to Zoroaster many of the teachings which constituted Zoroastrianism. When we look to see what sort of creature Ahura Mazda was, we discover good evidence that he was but another custodian pretending to be God. And this is why we had to see, this is how we know that monotheism is absolute bullshit. Because even in the Bible or any of these other, they always say, put no other gods before me, put no other idols before me, put no other messiahs before me. And that statement alone is the biggest red flag that there is the reason for them to try and put down upon people this idea of a one God system would be because they know that there are multiple gods and they don't want competition. I mean, I remember figuring that out, folks. I'm not kidding you. I remember figuring that out when I was in third fucking grade. I knew it. I mean, I knew whenever I'd go to church when I was a kid, I knew it was all scam. I knew. I don't know how I knew. My soul was telling me. Never felt comfortable going to churches and none of that stuff when I was a kid. When I would just, I hated it so much. I just knew that I was being lied to, man. I just felt uncomfortable in those places. And that's exactly what we have going on here is we have these different gods. They're not gods, but these different extraterrestrials who are, who want power and know, let's just go fuck with them, We'll tell them we're God. We can get them to do whatever we want. But these are no more than just, people from other places with more advanced technology. We could do the same thing if we went to some, think about how many times that's been played upon in the movies, It's been played upon in the movies a million times because it's a fact. Great example is in Return of the Jedi. Remember when they're in the Ewok village and they think C-3PO is a god because he's golden and he's talking and everything. They put him up and, he's carrying him around and stuff. They think he's the god. Same thing. If you and I went on some primitive planet and landed on some primitive planet, there were primitive people there and we had some technology or knowledge of technology they didn't have, they would think we were gods. You could very well set up anything and have people do your bidding, and that would give you power and everything else. So this is exactly the same model that people follow today. Ahura Mazda is depicted in some places as a bearded human figure who stands on a stylized circular object. From the circular object protrude two stylized wings to indicate that it flies. The round flying object has two jutting struts underneath that resemble legs for landing. Yeah, that's on that's actually on the Behistun inscription, which is in Iran. In other words, Ahura Mazda was a human-like god who flew in a round object with landing pads, a custodian. The implication is that Zoroaster's monotheism, with its apocalyptic message, was spread in Persia with custodial assistance, much in the same way that Judaism has been spread under Moses. Could have said it better myself. As noted earlier, Zoroaster was an Aryan living in a region ruled by other Aryans. Aryan domination was so strong that the name of Persia was eventually changed to Iran, which is a derivative of the word Aryan. Zoroastrian works speak of a god fighting for the Aryan nations and helping them bring about good crops. Through its writings, primarily the Zend Avesta, and through its secret mystical teachings, Zoroastrianism did much to spread philosophies of Aryanism to other organizations within the Brotherhood network. We shall see examples later. Apocalyptic doctrines continue to be spread after the death of Zoroaster, especially by Hebrew prophets. The warnings of those Hebrew prophets can be found in the later books of the Old Testament. One of those prophets was Ezekiel, whose description of bizarre flying objects we looked at in chapter 7. According to Ezekiel's narrative, he was taken aboard a strange craft for the very purpose of being given an apocalyptic message to spread, indicating once again that custodians were the ultimate creators of Judgment Day teachings. As year 1 AD approached, the Hebrew religion had become well settled in the Middle East. It was, however, undergoing many changes, some of which were caused by the extension of the Roman Empire into Palestine. The Romans, who had themselves been driven to conquest by strange mystical religions with definite brotherhood undertones, often made life difficult for the Jews. In this milieu, a number of Jewish sects arose which were often at odds with one another, except in regard to one matter. The Romans were not welcome in Palestine. Some Hebrew sects, such as the Sadducees, proclaimed the coming Messiah from God, a Messiah who would prevail in the eternal struggle of good against evil and bring freedom to the oppressed Jews. This idea became quite popular among the Hebrews of Palestine, even though its strong political slant made it dangerous. Old Testament messianic prophecies began as early as 750 BC with the prophet Isaiah. Jewish apocalypses emerged sporadically after that, yet often enough to keep fear of a world cataclysm alive. Examples include a prophet Joel circa 400 BC and Daniel circa 165 BC. Ironically, the prophecies were quite dire and expressed tremendous hostility against the Jewish people themselves, even though the Hebrews were meant to ultimately benefit from the prophecies. Old Testament seers described the people of Israel as wicked and sinful. They quoted Jehovah threatening all manner of calamities against the people of Israel and against the oppressors of Israel itself. No one was to be spared, and to give the flavor of the old predictions, here is the quote from the Old Testament. The above passage preaches the coming of a special messenger from God named Elijah, who was the Hebrews' competition at the Maitya of the Buddhist religion, against the Maitya of the Buddhist religion. The Buddhists, perhaps sensing the one-upmanship or falling prey to corrupted brotherhood influences, reshaped the Maitya legend to resemble monotheistic apocalypses. This created the illusion that the Hebrews and Buddhists were waiting for the same person when in fact they were not. Brotherhood monotheists were and still are waiting for a messenger from God coupled with a day of judgment. The Buddhists were simply awaiting a friend who is smart and caring enough to finish Buddha's work without the necessity of the entire world ending. Modern Hebrews are still waiting for Elijah to appear. While Christians believe that Elijah was John the Baptist, the man who baptized Jesus Christ, Old Testament prophets expressed another important idea. For I, God, will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and then shall the Lord go forth and fight against these nations. That's from Zechariah 14:1-2, and that's allegedly Jehovah that said that. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem. So allegedly, that's Jehovah saying, I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. So to see where these ideologies really rooted from, folks? This is a startling quote because it states God's intention to bring many nations into a conflict by first supporting one side and then backing the other. Such actions are textbook Machiavelli. God's intention to make brother fight brother was expressed in the same year by the prophet Haggai. Bible believers still think that a supreme being is behind the vicious Machiavellian intentions described in the Bible. The ancient astronauts theory seems to provide a true breakthrough by pointing to a brutal technological society, not a supreme being. And this is seen as the more likely source of such machinations. When people adhere to apocalyptic prophecies, they usually do so because they believe in predestiny. Predestiny is the idea that the future is already created and unalterable, and that some people have a special ability to see that future. Does predestiny really exist? And that's a good question. But I think it's a question we're going to leave for next time here. And we're going to leave right there for tonight on that chapter of William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. I want to thank everybody for tuning in all week with us here. I think we've had some good shows and some good reading this week from all the things that we've read and gone over here. And I'm going to let you guys ponder that, and then we'll pick up that next time on the show. Please support our work, folks. The next week will be our fundraising week, so we got to pay the bills for the month and everything next week. So there you go. Use the chip and banner for that. Donate button if you want to support our work, you want to see us grow. Or you just want to, hey, throw a donation or something in there, a grand in there to help us continue. Thanks so much to everybody out there for supporting our work and everything you do. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we will see you next time for the broadcast. You guys have a great night. Take care.